ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Tuesday, March 28th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's program. We're going to open up our text line this hour at 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. We're going to go all across the landscape today. I was over at Marshall yesterday for a long time. Yesterday, of course, was the introductory press conference for new Marshall women's basketball coach Kim Stevens. So that happened yesterday. Also, we had presser yesterday for Coach Huff and plenty of the coordinators. We're going to talk about Marshall's offensive line a little bit today. I've got sound from Clint Trickett when I was over there at the Shoey. So we're going to get that in. And of course, we're going to take your text and get those in. And we do that, again, at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I already had a text come in early before the show, and that's fine. You can text in before the show. You can also find me on Twitter, at Paul Swann. And a texter wrote in, sent me a link about Bryce Butler entering the transfer portal. Who is Bryce Butler? Played in the D2 National Championship with West Liberty. He is a two-time Mountain East Conference Player of the Year. He was the MVP of the MEC and Atlantic Region tournaments. And his scoring output for West Liberty, 1,892. So I got a text earlier today, sent me the story on this and said Marshall needs to check on this guy. I'm sure Marshall's already, I'm hoping anyway, if a local prospect, and when I mean local, I mean the state, or anyone involved in basketball in and around the state of West Virginia, I'm sure Dan D'Antoni and company are checking it out. I watched a lot of that game. We had that game on the radio Saturday, and I watched a lot of that. It was a up and down, back and forth game, 111-101. Nova Southeastern won the national championship, defeating West Liberty, but both teams back and forth. Over 200 points were scored. So if you had the over 200, you did well if you were playing the odds on this one. So that's kind of the stuff I get on the text line sometimes. And you can join in as well. And again, I'll give you that number one more time. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Earlier today, over at the Dot, Marshall softball getting the win, 13-1 over NKU. Savannah Rice improving to 7-0 with the win. She had 5 innings of work, 10 strikeouts, and Marshall's now won a school record 18 straight games. Megan Smith-Lyon has the softball team rolling. They are rolling right now. The story is going to be when they next lose, which team is going to have the distinction. That's the next story, because this thing has just completely been a rocket ship this year. She talked about last week when I went over and talked to her about Dot Magic. Well, I believe in magic, as the Thundering Herd with the 13-1 win. Baseball action tonight in Morgantown, 6:30 first pitch. The Marshall men's baseball team in Morgantown to take on the Mountaineers. That should be an interesting midweek game. Marshall and West Virginia, they have a good back and forth in baseball. Of course, Marshall's still trying to, I don't want to say establish the program, but you're almost every year, it feels like building from scratch here. And with the stadium finally going to be built, and it's under construction now, for those of you that never believed it would happen, yeah, I think Marshall's going to be in good shape here. So heading up the road, taking on number 24 West Virginia. It's going to be on ESPN Plus if you want to watch it. Should be a fun one. Mountaineers are coming off a 3-2 week. They did beat Xavier last weekend. And the Thundering Herd, lucky that the Thundering Herd has been improving, because I think you're getting more and more attention now with Marshall baseball. I don't know if there's a lot of attention just yet. It seems to be low-key, but junior Marshall baseball starting pitcher Patrick Coben named Sunbelt Conference Pitcher of the Week for that 6-1 win at Old Dominion on Friday. Had a career-high 8 innings, tied his career best at 11 strikeouts, and he allowed just 1 run on 3 hits and 3 walks in his first win of the season. His 49 strikeouts lead the Sun Belt, and it's 14th in the nation. And he just gives up 6.54 hits per 9 innings. That's second best in the conference. So I think things are going on the right path. I'm optimistic for Marshall baseball. Next year, of course, there's going to be a lot more pomp and circumstance around the program, but I'm confident that they're getting the foundation built. Anything that happens this year is just, it's extra for me. Marshall baseball, anything good that happens is extra. Anything bad happens, that's just going to be left over from trying to rebuild this program. Next year isn't a make or break year by any stretch of the imagination. It's more of, okay, next year is the restart of Marshall baseball. This year's sort of prep work for next year. The restart is next year. And then now you're going to have a facility you can recruit to. That's the good news. Looking good over there. And when I mean looking good, moving dirt is looking good to me. Every time I go by, I look at and peek a little bit more. Okay. There's the outline. It looks like progress is being made. There's going to be a real baseball park to go to next year. It's not just a dirt lot with a sign on the fence where the grass hasn't been cut in months saying the future home of Marshall baseball. No, there's actual dirt moving. Absolutely. Going to be fun. Won't it be fun to have some afternoon baseball sometime, midweek baseball? Wouldn't that be fun? Have some baseball and softball all within the same spot. We could have baseball, softball doubleheaders. You could have baseball and then softball, or softball and then baseball. You could schedule those things where you have both events going on, not at the same time. I wouldn't do that, but you could have both events going on the same day. Go to softball, then walk over for baseball. That would be a great scheduling idea. Try to space them out just enough that there's time in between. But you could have, and there are going to be lights. There's going to be lights. So we could have some day-night double headers. That would be cool. But we're going to hear from Clint Trickett in just a minute, so we're going to get to that. We're going to take your text, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So we'll focus on football today. And, of course, what's your reaction now to Marshall naming its coach, Kim Stevens? Christian Spears yesterday with the introduction. I don't know if he was taking shots at us or not, talking about how everybody picked Kim Stevens before Marshall even signed the deal. I don't know. I don't think he was taking shots directly, but there was a lot of chatter online. There was a lot of chatter on this show. There was a lot of chatter, period, that, hey, it should be Kim Stevens. She should be the next coach at Marshall University. So, did Marshall get it right? We'll start there. Did Marshall get it right? Obviously, all the chatter online, all of the premature reports, none of that mattered. Marshall got the deal done with Kim Stevens. So she's now the new coach of the Marshall women's basketball team. So we'll get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back for the Tuesday, March 28th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. My name is Paul Swann. We do this every weekday, Monday through Friday, right here on the radio. And, of course, we also have a streaming app. If you haven't checked that out yet, easy way to do it is go to our website, WRVC.com. There are links to your storefront. So if you've got an iPhone, we've got the link to the storefront there. If you've got an Android, well, we've got the link to that storefront as well. And then you can listen to the show every weekday, 5 to 6. Also, you can listen to previous episodes. We've got the podcast coming to that app as well. So it's a one-stop shop for all your radio listening needs. So go download that today. Go get it. It's free. We do not charge. We do not charge a single dime for it. So it is free for you. Marshall getting set for the season, and we have moved on now to spring ball. You had the fourth quarter program. You had the conditioning. Now we are in spring ball. And one of the speakers I had a chance to listen to and talk to yesterday was Marshall offensive coordinator Clint Trickett. And one of the first things that he talked about, we all always want to know about the quarterbacks. And he said that the quarterback room, it's a little different now.
Obviously a little different position than last year with the quarterbacks that we got. Not 5 freshmen. Still got a lot of freshmen in there, but with a little more experience behind us. In-game experience. So a little different, but at the same time, got a lot of work to do. Big challenge ahead of us. Still got to develop and continue to see these guys grow. Excited to see the offense grow as a whole. Make some tweaks, changes, so on and so forth, but improvements from last year is really what we're looking forward to.
I think with more experience, you're going to have improvement at the quarterback position. Of course, you brought in an experienced quarterback, try to bring that factor that you didn't have. You try to bring someone in that has that experience, and then the position ultimately goes to Cam Fancher. And Coach was asked about Fancher. Now that he's had more time, now that he's been through it, is he going to be able to do more?
Usually you don't see, usually it's each year you see a kid get better. So to see a kid improve week by week like that, and it's only, we're scratching the surface at what he can do. I think I heard Coach Huff say it, but he's in the exact same shoes at this point last year that all the other ones were in. You know what I mean? They haven't had a lot of game experience, but he didn't last year at this point. You got to get them ready for that because they're one play away from it also as well. That's the harsh reality of playing quarterback. 1 year you're not even traveling, and you're not back up. And the next year you're back up one play away from playing. So I think they realize that. I stressed it to them this winter of how real it is for playing now, and they're like, oh crap, yeah, I'm not redshirting anymore. I am close to being playing. So the intensity and everything does step up.
Another question that was asked of Coach was his improvement, how he's improved. And I think he focused more on the team a little bit when he responded to this. But I think now that they've got some more time together, the quarterback room, him in the position, I think he feels better about it. That was kind of the impression I was getting from this.
Comfortability, we really got it there near the end. Obviously, we all know what happened last year. There's a lot of different things, a lot of quarterback changes, coaches changes, all that type of stuff. So once we got a little settled there at the end, I think you could tell it. Fought through, like everything at the end of the year in bowl games, some injuries, some nicks and bruises. We're able to get 9 wins last year, 6-1 with a freshman quarterback, and that kid coming back very, very pleased and excited to see what he can do.
We're listening to Marshall offensive coordinator Clint Trickett, as I had a chance to spend some time with him at the Shuey building. And something else that I was curious about, so I asked him, I kind of asked this question last year, so I wanted to know from him, What do you think's the character of this offense will be? You get guys that come in, and you're trying to bring people in to run your system. You're trying to bring people in that match what you're trying to do. But sometimes you just have players that, okay, we're going to have to adapt to that player. They bring something to the table we didn't think we had or needed. We definitely want to take advantage of it. Things like this, right? If you've got someone that is really good at a certain thing, then you want to try to take advantage of that. So I was kind of curious, just what he thought the character of the offense would be this year.
I think you saw it a little bit the last 3 games there. We got some comfortability with Cam and the offense, and then obviously it helps having 22. The guy did lead the country in points the year before at 11.5, so having him back definitely helped, even if he wasn't 100%. Just having the body there certainly helps. Kalen did a phenomenal job filling in for him, and Payne and AJ and so on and so forth. This is going to be a huge spring for them, the young backs. Again, huge spring for the quarterbacks. We still got to get better developed, whether it's Cam, so on and so forth, down the line. There's going to be a lot of competition all across the board in that room and other rooms. That's what spring is for, open competition, development. What is the offense going to look like? It's going to look, like I said, a little similar to what you saw the last 3 games, in the last 4, including the bowl. So it's a little bit of that, hopefully a little better too.
Also, I know the question that a lot of you want to hear about. The depth of the offensive line. That is always a big question. Can the offensive line get it done? Is there depth there? How is this offensive line developed? Coach talked a little bit about that.
Love those guys. I think I came in at the end of Coach talking about Tariq and Slappy and Fraley and a lot of these young guys that we recruited and signed out of high school, let alone the transfers. Yes, we're excited about the transfers, the Lloyd Willises, the CKs, the junior colleges, and so on and so forth. But the high school kids that we recruited, really excited because you can't, especially a lineman, it's hard to come in from high school and that's a big, you're banging around with 4th year, 5th year seniors. So you got a year in the weight room with BA, you got their bodies right. Like he said, like Tariq and Jalen, they've completely changed in just 1 year. I don't even think they were early enrollees like Chase Harrison and some of the quarterbacks we've had. So I'm really excited to see what they can do. This is their first spring. That's like Cole Pennick. This is his first spring. A lot of these guys got that last year, and spring you're getting a lot of reps in there because spring is developmental time. Fall is execution time. You know what I mean? We can still develop and stuff, but we got to execute. Spring we're going to fully develop. So this is going to be a great time for anyone going through their first spring. Huge development emphasis as always. So, but O-line, I'll continue to talk about them because they deserve it. Really excited about the returning guys that we have up front, from Driscoll to Holler to Osborne to Dalton Tucker. Obviously we're losing Cedrice Plant in there. He did a phenomenal job for us. We're losing Sartor at the right side. We feel like we replaced that either with some portal or some young guys, creating competition in there. I think at this point last year we were probably comfortable with 7, and now we probably have 8 to 9 that you're comfortable with already at this point. So, so hopefully that stays true and we can get through spring with that same number. And if we're rolling into fall with 9 to 10 guys we can rotate in there up front, it'll be a different story than what we saw last fall.
There you have it. Offensive coordinator Clint Trickett. We'll get more of your text in. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Some of you want to talk about Marshall women's basketball coach Kim Stevens, so we will do that. We'll get to your text when we continue. You can join that conversation as well. Again, the number is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You're listening to The Drive. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This is ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue on with this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. My text line is open. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter writes in, Paul, what is the new Marshall University ladies basketball coach Stevens' timeout philosophy? For 'em or against them? Go Herd. I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's going to take timeouts. If you don't know too much about her, she likes to use her bench. She likes to substitute. She likes to run a fast-paced offense. I want to say it reminds me of a hockey line change. 5 in, 5 out. Next 5 up. That might be one way to describe it. As a hockey line change. We hope to have her on the show eventually. Of course, just being hired and trying to get everything in order, acclimated. She has a busy schedule, so we will get her on the show as soon as we possibly can. So that's going to be an interesting question to file away. I'm going to ask her that. Would you think your style of substitution is more akin to a line change in hockey? So that's a good question. We'll definitely follow up. But she likes to substitute. She likes to bring players in and rotate. And guess what? It's going to be fun to watch. Back and forth, up and down, right? Fresh players in. Okay, next line up. Text lines 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I want to follow up on a text that I got earlier. It also involves Coach Stevens, and texter said that this was before the hire, but I didn't get to this text yesterday. It was a comment about how this has become a battle between Marshall and West Virginia for the services of Kim Stevens. I don't know if this is necessarily a battle. I think West Virginia is going in its direction. I think Marshall going in a different direction with women's basketball as far as what you're looking for in a coach. I think as a coach moving from Division II to Division I, if you're going to make the transition, you need to go somewhere you think you can win. Okay, well, she made that statement yesterday. You think you can win at Marshall. Okay. You look at what you have, look at what you're able to do, what you've been able to do in the past, and you kind of feel like, okay, if I make this transition, I should be set up for success here. The administration has set me up, hopefully, for success. Okay, that's a fair evaluation. Going into the Sun Belt, you're coming up from Division II where you have built, now it just didn't happen overnight, you have built Glenville State into a competitive program, won a national championship. It's the same way Marshall Soccer is now a competitive program on a larger stage, won a national championship. You have to, for the foreseeable future, talk about Marshall Soccer. And you have to do that now with Glenville State on the women's basketball stage at Division II. Going to be a player for a long time to come in those conversations. And so now she makes that transition from Division II to Division I. Well, if you're looking to make the transition and you're looking to build a program at the same time, you want to be set up for success, I think the Marshall job is a better opportunity for her. Fits her vibe. Also, you're going into the Sun Belt. You're not going into the Big 12. And I think moving up from Division II to Division I isn't that much of a transition because there are some quality Division II programs that are much better than a multitude of Division I programs. You following along with me? You get me so far? And so making the transition from Division II to Marshall might not be as jarring a transition because Glenville State was a championship caliber program at Division II. You move up to Division I. You take the Marshall job. It's a program. It's got potential. It also can be a program that will offer you a degree of difficulty, a step up, but you have administration that's committed, wants to win in the Sun Belt, and you should have an easy path to being successful if everything falls in place. If you have the resources you need, if she can recruit to Marshall, if she can bring players in, if she can adapt her style of play to the Division I level, if she can show success and build the program, then she's going to be able to attract more. And I've seen a couple arguments online about if WVU wanted her, WVU would have got her. I don't necessarily believe that's true. You go where you think you can be successful, and you go where you think you're wanted, and Marshall seemed to check the boxes. At the same time, I will agree that going into the Big 12, that is a different degree of difficulty compared to going into the Sun Belt. I don't think anyone can argue that. You go into the Big 12, it's a higher level of basketball. It just is. I think the numbers play that out. I think the results on the court show that. The Big 12 is just a tougher, higher degree of difficulty league. Not to say that Sun Belt basketball can't be competitive. Look at the Final Four. Absolutely look at the Final Four. Did anyone have any of those teams on your scorecard? I will tell you this right now. In our office bracket, the answer is no. No one had any of those teams in the Final Four. No one got a single team right going into the Final Four. Our bracket contest is over. So it's possible. What I'm saying here is it's possible. Because you can have a successful run in the tournament and you can be Florida Atlantic. You can have a successful run in the tournament and you can be San Diego State. And you still have some heritage there. You have UConn and you have Miami. So you have a good mix here. It's possible. Just because you're not going into a Power 5 league doesn't mean you can't build a quality basketball program. I always felt that basketball is easier to build up than football in some regards because you have less. That's it. You have less. How many people are on the roster for Coach Huff, and then how many on the roster for Dan D'Antoni? So I think she can be successful here. Absolutely think she can be successful here. And I think it's going to be fun to watch. And you got to take this to heart. She's got a 7-year deal trying to build a program, 7-year contract to build a program. And you got to give her time. The team could be immediately successful, or it might take a couple of years. We'll see which path it takes. I mean, look at Marshall softball. Marshall softball's rolling right now. I really don't think Marshall softball had to rebuild. It just had to clean the machine and just fire it back up. Let's get more of your text in. I've got the text line open until the end of the show at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Also, you can find me on Twitter. It's at Paul Swann. So a couple of ways you can get a hold of me there. We'll continue on with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
It's our final segment, but we have plenty of time for you. It's 304-396-TALK. 304-396-8255. That's our text line. You can be a part of the program every day here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This is The Drive. Let's talk a little Bengals before we continue on with more of your text and comments. The Bengals needed a tight end. Guess what? They got one. Irv Smith Jr. agreeing to terms with the Bengals Monday night. A Vikings second rounder right out of Alabama. We know a little bit about Alabama. Back in 2019, spent his entire career with the Vikings. Injuries were an issue. Missed all of 2021 with a knee injury and half of 2022 with an ankle injury. Did appear in 8 games last season, catching 25 passes for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, the Bengals making moves. I'm all right with this one. It doesn't blow me away, but what was the reason why that he wanted to come to Cincinnati? Joe Burrow, all the fun toys that Joe Burrow has. If you get a quality quarterback like Joe Burrow, you get a group of offensive players that make it fun, exciting, guess what? You're going to attract players. Quarterback position, most important position on the field, on the offensive side at least anyway. So I've been actually pretty okay, pretty happy with the way the Bengals have gone about free agency. I mean, after that first day, there weren't any splashy signings, and social media, as busted as it is right now, social media, people were just up in arms. The Bengals, what are you doing? And I think they're doing pretty good so far. So I look for the Bengals to be in contention once again for a run at the Super Bowl. Hopefully they're going to be the team to beat in the division. If I was ranking them right now, I would say I'm most concerned about the Cleveland Browns. I know, that's strange coming out of my mouth. Cleveland Browns, the Steelers, and then I'm least concerned about the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to rank it in that order as far as my concern for players. Text line 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. While we've got a minute, if you're getting ready for baseball locally, if you're excited about the Charleston Dirty Birds getting set for its season, going to head up to Charleston, catch some games now and then. You know, they've gotten a little crazy with some of the promotions over the last few years. I think now they look for new ways. Remember, they had the Mothman uniforms last year. You always got to get the West Virginia connection. You got to tie it in with the Mothman, do something fun like this. So I saw this item yesterday. They better be able to pull this one off. The Charleston Dirty Birds announced yesterday that they're going to be known on July 15th as the Charleston Pepperoni Rolls. Obviously, if you have a new name, you're going to have a new jersey. So they got special jerseys that day. They're going to auction them off after the game, and the proceeds are going to go to Goodwill of the Kanawha Valley. Can you believe that? The Charleston Pepperoni Rolls. Only in minor league baseball can you do something like this. Absolutely. You could not do this. I know they have the alternate jersey sometimes I've seen with the NBA. Different variations of the name change a little bit, just to reach out to different communities. But in minor league baseball, you couldn't see the Pittsburgh Pirates change their name like this for a day. It'd be unheard of. I don't think a Major League Baseball team has done something this drastic. If I'm wrong, I want to see examples of it, because I don't think we're ever going to see, say, the Cincinnati Skyline Chili's. Maybe we will one day. I don't know. Baseball, I don't know. Or would it be the Skyline? Would it be Gold Star Chili's? I mean, there's a battle right there I don't think we're ready to get into. So that's an interesting change of pace for the Charleston Dirty Birds. Going to be known as the Charleston Pepperoni Rolls. We will get closer to the start of the Charleston Dirty Birds season on the show. Every year we have a check-in at least once a week from the Dirty Birds, so looking forward to getting that started back up here soon with baseball returning to at least the Kanawha Valley, and as a result, reaching down to Cabell and Wayne counties a little bit here in West Virginia. Staying with baseball just for a second, Joey Votto is going to be starting the 2023 season on the injured list. He's got that rotator cuff issue going on. So that's breaking a streak of 14 consecutive opening day starts for Joey Votto. And don't forget, staying with baseball just for a minute, switching over to what we're going to be bringing you. Opening day is coming up here in the next couple of days. We've got it for you. Thursday, no show, unless there's a rain out, and we'll go back on the air then. Baseball Thursday, opening day, 3:45. The Pirates and the Reds right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got baseball starting back up once again. Always a great way to spend the night, the evening. Sometimes we got afternoon baseball as well. But I was actually having this conversation earlier. I'm not going to name names, but someone in the office, not a fan of baseball, and I said, well, hey, you might like it now. They're actually trying to speed the game up a little bit. Because the thing I get from a lot of people that don't like baseball, you probably hear it as well, baseball is boring. No, it's not boring. I think it's just a slower pace. It's more deliberate. The one thing about baseball is the game's over when it's over. Football, basketball, except with the Elam ending, hockey, soccer. Okay, soccer's a bad answer. But most of those sports, you have an artificial end of the game. It's not, okay, first one to score this amount of points wins. It's, okay, when the clock's over, when it reads 0, team that has the most points win. In baseball, you get 9, and then after 9, if one team has more than the other, depending on if it's the home or the road, when we end this thing, it's over. If not, we go to extra innings. Which I hope that with some of the rule changes, and they're still tweaking this thing, I'm hoping that I would like to avoid extra innings if all possible. I just want to say that I get it. I like free baseball too, but I think I just want to avoid extra innings as much as I possibly can this year. Because then we get locked into the whole point is you're trying to speed the game up, see if you can attract more people. I want to see if that would be something interesting to track. How many games go into extra innings this year with some of the changes compared to last year? That's what I'm interested in. But we've got it for you coming up. Baseball, getting back into the swing of things. Pun intended. Opening day, we've got it for you. 4:10 first pitch, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Pirates at the Reds. How many of you are going to stay up and watch Cleveland at Seattle that night? I'm not. 10:10 first pitch. No, I'm going to pass on that one. Absolutely. NBA action tonight. Cleveland's going to be in Atlanta. That's 7:30 tonight. NHL action tonight. Columbus taking on the New York Rangers. That is set for 7 o'clock. I only mention that because it's Columbus. And the Blue Jackets and the Rangers, believe it or not, one of the bigger rivalries right now in the National Hockey League. Those two teams just don't like each other for some reason. Don't forget, if you miss a part of the program, you can always go back and catch it. It's on our podcast, and the best way is to find it on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Or if you get your podcast some way differently than those two, those are usually the two biggest. But if you get it somewhere else, you can find the show there as well. And we even make it even easier for you. We've got an app that you can download. All you have to do is go to our website, WRVC.com. It is free. You can listen to the show live. You can stream it 5 to 6. You can also click the menu and go to the podcast tab, and we'll have the latest episode posted there. So you have got a choice. You can listen to your podcast on your player, or you can get our app and listen to it on our player. Doesn't matter how you do it. It's free, and you don't have to do anything. But if you do hit follow, it'll get delivered to you on your schedule. You can listen to it. It's ready to go. Once it's posted, it's delivered to you, and it's ready to go. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll do it all over again right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.